first question. Welcome back, Venerable. Could you share with us your experiences in your recent travels? Do you have any suggestion for those going abroad to practice the way while in transit? Thank you. Well, it's a good question. I've been away for 3 weeks now, and then the reason why I have been away is I visited a few places. I was invited by some organizers in Polytechnical University in Hong Kong for 3 days, and also I was invited by University of Technology and Science for 2 days. In Poly University, I gave a lecture to approximately about 800 to 1,000 people. The topic of my lecture was the 8 consciousnesses. How does our consciousness work when we interact with externalities? How do we perceive things? And this is very academic. They seem to explore more into the consciousness level of the religion. They don't just get absorbed in superstition of requesting from the Buddha for longevity, for riches, for money, for fame, for reputations. They more, right now, they seem to gear towards understanding of it rather than acquisition, what they can acquire from the religion. I gave a 3 days lectures, but giving a 3 days lectures in the 8 consciousnesses is a tough job. I told my group of people, about 800 to 1,000 people, I said, lecturing on consciousness, you need 1 semester, two lectures per week, 24 lectures. So you need, at least 1 semester to go through it. But if I have to do it in 3 days, it will be extremely difficult. I have to streamline a lot. I try to summarize it as much as possible. And they all seem to like it, and that is in the Poly University. And then my next trip was in University of Technology and Science, and surprisingly, I have not been to that university at all. That was my first time, my first visit, and I was amazed. Probably of all the universities I've been to, this is the most beautiful campus of all the universities I've been to. It was right, fronting on the shoreline. They have a panoramic view of Aberdeen, of the harbor, the Hong Kong harbor, and they actually, it's the best view. And also, even the dormitories of the students were sitting right beside, on the seaside, all luxuries. And I was told that that is still one of the 10 top universities in Asia, University of Science and Technology. And I also met a lot of American professors over there, and they all like the place. It's so that day was so sunny. I gave lectures for 2 days, and they have a good dining room in there, and it was panoramic view, and the students there were quite active. They are so sunny in their smiles, and of course, if you're given a campus like that, compared to some campuses in other universities, that's one of the best campuses I've ever met. I've never been to. So I gave lectures on the same topic, on Vijnapti Matrata, which is mere consciousness. Vijnapti Matrata, mere consciousness, talking about consciousness, on the 22nd and the 27th. And on the 22nd, I gave an introduction, and I gave out my books also. I recently published a book written in Chinese, 120 Chinese characters, a book like that thick, and I was able to distribute the books out. I gave lectures to about 95 students, second-year university students, and that course was elective for them, a Buddhist course, and they all liked it. And they asked very good questions, they are very conscientious in asking questions too. So that's University of Science and Technology. The content of it, I've talked about it in here too. And more I find out that people are interested in understanding the religion rather than just believing in the religion. They try to seek understanding of it. They want to get wisdom out of it, not just blindly believing in it, by asking more questions, by actually practicing it. I said they were very interested. There were a lot of business students because it was famous for commerce at the University of Technology and Science. And they wanted to they ask questions about how to apply Buddhism to management. I said the theme of my lecture is not on management, it's on consciousness. However, I would be pleased if I would have a chance to give a lecture on how to apply Buddhism to management. And I mentioned that we have in Buddhism we have the 6 paramitas. The 6 paramitas, paramitas. Paramitas is to achieve something from a lower level to a higher level, to get to the shore of understanding. Paramitas to get to the shore of understanding. And the 6 paramitas says that if we have these 6 courses, that if we pass into 6 courses and really get good marks in it, it's just as if we have learned how to apply Buddhism to management. So it has been very good experiences, and I will be going to Singapore too. Surprisingly, I have a lot of lectures on YouTube, and people in Singapore and Malaysia, they all like my YouTube lectures in English, and they particularly liked Chinese monks who could speak English over there, because Singaporeans and Malaysians, they all speak English, and they speak English, they speak Cantonese, they speak Putonghua. They're quite talented in languages, and they like a monk who could be good at conversing in those 3 languages. So I was asked to go to give a lectures in the coming June for 4 days, 2 days in English, 1 day in Cantonese, and 1 day in Putonghua. So there will be some people in Hong Kong who will be accompanying me to go over there too. So if you're interested, you can always join us to going to Singapore. And before going to Singapore, from the 19th to the 25th, we'll be going to Thailand too. And every year we go to Thailand because we set up a farm in Thailand, and we call it Community for Retired Old Buffaloes. We already have saved 69 buffaloes. It started about 5 years ago when we visited Thailand, and in Thailand they have buffalo farms, and they like milk from buffaloes. So they're milking buffaloes. They gave milk for 13, 14 years, these buffaloes, huge buffaloes, and after 13 or 14 years they don't produce any more milk. And the owner of the farm would send them to slaughterhouses to be slaughtered for the meat, for people's food. And I talked to the owner many years, 5 years ago. I said, it would be not merciful and not compassionate if your employees were working for you. This is actually giving you milk, and then when they get too old, you kill them for money. So I said, why don't we buy those buffaloes from you, don't send them to slaughterhouses, and set up a farm for retirement, old retired buffaloes, and raise them until their natural death. And the owner finally conceded to my suggestion, agreed with my suggestion, and they actually set up a retired community next to it, about 5 acres. So over the 5 years, we already have 69 buffaloes. And in the coming June, we will have another at least 10 buffaloes. So every year we'll be going over there to audit on the old buffaloes and to spray holy water on the new old buffaloes. And there are about 40 people who would go with me to Hong Kong to perform the 3 refuges ceremony. And there are people, there's a couple in there who would support all the accommodation and all the food. In other words, people who like to go just pay for your traveling expenses, your air ticket, and then you enjoy a 4-star hotel with free food and accommodation. But only for those we know. We don't open these vacancies for strangers. Only those we know for quite a while. You know, meditators who have been here for a while. We don't just accept any strangers because we don't know them, because the couples would like to know that we're familiar with people who go over there. So if you're interested in Thailand, you can always join us. We have about at least 10 buffaloes to join the team of the retired old buffaloes. And then immediately after that event, I'll be traveling from Thailand to Singapore to give the 4 days talk. Recently, I've been giving quite a few lectures at university level, because I used to be giving those giving lectures, Buddhist lectures in temples, where there are many people join, and 50% of the people are senior people, and 50% are other age groups. But I will be concentrating more at the university level, so that the truth of the Buddhist teaching would be conveyed to younger people, so that they would again, make it effective for them, and that's my intention. Next question: do you have any suggestion for those going abroad to practice the way while in transit? For example, chanting would be the way to go. Chanting would create a lot of energy. Meditation will create a lot of energy. But if you are in transit, when you are traveling, you will meet a lot of people. When you don't meet a lot of people, then maybe your target should be geared towards compassion, giving out to people, trying to absorb new knowledge when you are abroad, instead of building up your own boundary of views, and this is how you look at people. Some people will go to a country and say, oh, this is not what we want, this is not right, that is not right. Open your mind to say, this is a different culture, and in this culture this is what they're doing, and what can we learn from this culture? And then when you come into difficulties, of course you recede to meditation in the hotel and doing your chanting. And by the way, when you are in transit, there are certain things that you always have to watch out. For example, cautious steps taken when you are going into a hotel. We always say, when you're choosing a hotel, always choose, when you're giving a room, don't take a room at the end of the lobby. You know what I mean? So if the long lobby, a long corridor, and there are 1 or 2 rooms right at the very end of it, and it's so quiet, there will be a lot of other friends in there waiting for you for chit-chat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So whenever you get into a hotel, you always bang on the door, and then you're whispering, oh, my friends, my dear friends, I'm only stay for 1 or 2 days. I won't give you any disturbance, and let us just cooperate. Because in empty rooms like that, there are other beings occupying the place. I heard a lot of stories about rooms that haven't been taken for 1 or 2 weeks, and all of a sudden a stranger go in, they would react in a different way. So always lock at the door and say you're here, and thank you for sharing it and all that. Otherwise you'll meet situations that not pleasant for you. At the end of the lobby, or you can feel it sometimes. So if you are chanting, that would also give you some protection too once you get into rooms like that. And I heard a lot of stories about getting into rooms that is quote unquote haunted. Then you'll meet problems. But try to avoid that while in transit. And chanting, you get protection for chanting. All right. Be extremely cautious when you are abroad. Are you planning to travel abroad? Yeah. So Om Mani Padme Hum. Yeah, that's a good mantra. That's easy to learn. Doesn't performing good actions, that's the next question, doesn't performing good actions as an example lead to karma and reincarnation again? What did the first Buddha think of chanting? Well, the reason why we are practicing the Buddhist teaching is to get away from reincarnation. When you're in reincarnation, you're always in a cycle of life and death. You don't want to be in life and death again. 2,600 years ago, there was a saint who practiced a certain way, and he found a way to be liberated from life and death. He did not have to go through life and death anymore after that life, particular life. But he still have to shed that clothes, to shed that body off before they go to Nirvana. By the way, today is the Nirvana day of Sakyamuni Buddha. So in other words, you died out this one lifetime and you don't continue into the next lifetime again. Because if you're always in reincarnations, you can't get away from life and death. The reason for practicing the Buddhist teaching is to get away from life and death, not to roll into karmic energy and reincarnation again. So I don't understand why it doesn't performing good action as an example lead to karma. Performing good actions would take you out of the trouble of suffering from bad effects. So if you're always killing, lying, sexual misconduct, intoxication, then because of these causes that you have cultivated, all these bad karma and bad effects will act on you. How can you practice? You know, you'll be too busy facing all the difficulties you have this lifetime. So the first thing to do is to stay away from doing bad deeds. That's the number one. Why? Because then if you do bad deeds, you will suffer a lot from all these bad deeds. So if you do good deeds, that would give you good effects. But still, that's not the way to go. That's not pure. So the people are always, cultivating good causes and enjoying life, then in the process of enjoying, he may be involved in other bad things like relationship, getting by all means making all kinds of money in the wrong way, and because when you have money, you tend to be involved in non-virtuous deeds sometimes. So don't get into reincarnation again. That's what we try to get away from. But how do we not get into the next round of life and death? We really have to learn the Buddha's way. It's not just a few words will be sufficient to give you all the answers. What did the first Buddha think of chanting? The first Buddha. If there is a first Buddha, there must be a last Buddha. If there is a first and then a last, that's not Buddhism. Because explaining it would involve explaining of emptiness and sunyata. What did the first Buddha think of chanting? First of all, there's no such thing as first Buddha think of chanting. What did the Buddha think of chanting? Chanting, as we said, is a kind of it's a kind of consciousness enriching. It's a consciousness reminder. It's related to the deep-rooted consciousness, how to enrich it, how to enlighten your consciousness. What's the meaning of Buddha? Bud is to awaken from a dream, to awake from a dream. Buddha, awake from a dream. In a dream, you are in confused consciousness. You want to change your confused consciousness, your tainted consciousness, into wisdom level. You have to be awake. You have to get awakened from the dream. That's what we can think of chanting. What's the difference between Taoism and Buddhism? That requires one semester to go through. And we can't discuss it in here. We have to know first of all what is Buddhism first, and then we have to know what is Taoism, and then we know the difference between the two. So it's not easy to give a straightforward answer. It's very difficult to give an answer in 1 hour about Buddhism already. Let alone combining it with Taoism, then you have to add a lot of information to it. This kind of question you can actually get from Google. Just Google in and say, what's the difference between Taoism and Buddhism?